speakers about these topics. Hello, dear friends. Hello. Today we are going to talking about a researcher. His name is Aage Nost. He is from Norway. He's a researcher. He has many years in these topics. So we are going to discuss about UFO, aliens, about many things about these topics. I think it's going to be interesting because he has a lot of experience with these topics. He is a good person. He's a good researcher. So it's going to be fascinating. My name is Angel Gabriel. I'm from Peru. So in this occasion, we are going to discuss about these topics about aliens. So, how are you, my friend, today?
I am fine. Speaking here from southwestern United States in America, and I have been studying this for a while, and I started probably when I was maybe 10, 12 years old, possibly, when I saw my first UFO, and that's when it started. You know, you never get cured after something like that. You know, it's a disease that gets in your blood, and you just keep looking and looking and looking and looking.
So, according to your experience, my dear friend, according to your experience, tell us a little about the moon. We in Peru, we think in the moon exist aliens because here in Peru people think humans. Many questions is about why humans don't return to the moon. Some people, some researchers says because in the moon there is aliens, there is air bases. According to your investigation, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that if all the evidence for aliens and UFOs has been taken into a court of law and presented before a judge and a jury, there would have been a hanging a long time ago. There's so much evidence out there. There's picture evidence. There is people that has been having contacts with alien beings, and there is prints. There is movie footage showing close-up flying saucers, and of course, not all of them are from other planets or other star systems. Many of them are made here on Earth, because during the Second World War, the German war machine started making flying discs or saucers all the way back to about 1938. And they have perfected many of those to the point where they got to the point where they had an anti-gravity or gravity nullification system with them, like they did in the Haunebue 1 and the Haunebue 2 and the Haunebue 3. When the war ended, some of those ships they ended up being taken by the Americans, and some were taken by the Russians. So we know that they have developed these technologies to the point where they have many.
¿Y tú ya planificaste tu próximo?
Work with this. I have movie footage I've seen of them being used in the war in Iraq. There was a triangular that was sitting in the spot at a building on the ground and blew the building up. So we know they are using them, but us about it.
I think in Peru, people, example, in many a picture about the moon. So Chinese share big. We are many people looking your in your web page. Tell us what is the best picture from you in your web page.
Yeah, I will first give you the web page is www.aage and the little dash in between nost.com. So it is www.myfirstname-mylastname.com. And when you get there, go to the picture gallery, or the photo album, actually is what it's called, and you will see there's over 3,000 straight of things on the moon, things on Mars, on other planets. There are UFOs, and there are many strange things, not just flying in the sky, but on the first page of the photo gallery I have a 2-mile long cigar-shaped ship floating across the surface of the moon, and you can see the shadow on the ground of the moon. This is a 2-shaped mothership, and that's the first one you run into there on page 1. And then a little further down the page I have a NASA print of a pyramid on the moon. That's on the left side, a little ways down. And on the same row, I have a picture of the German-built Haunebu 2, and also next to that, there's a German flying disc, the Haunebu 4. That is the big one, that is 160 feet across. And those are really big crafts. In fact, a little further down, there is a NASA print also with 3 pyramids in a row on the moon. See, these things, they sound strange, but I know that in South America and Central America, people are much more open because they see more of these crafts probably. They're more open to it. Americans and Europeans, they are more brainwashed and more close-minded, so they are not so open to receive the truth.
Why? I think it's because in Peru we have different historical places, enigmatic places like Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuamán, Nazca Lais. So we have history, a lot of history, so people believe in this phenomenon. But in USA, I think not the same, but they can believe in something, right? But I think about the moon. Tell us a little more about pyramids in the moon. It's so interesting.
The moon is a very strange object, and it really should not be there, because there is no explanation to why it is there. Because if you look at the moon itself, we know how big it is. And we know from the rocks that we came back with, we know how heavy it is. We know how big Earth is. And now I have an echo behind me here. So, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you okay, my dear friend. So, in the moon, in Peru, people believe in the moon exists alien races, called Selenitas. Maybe did you hear about Selenitas in the moon is races, alien races.
I have not heard of those, but I know there are aliens up there. I have seen the NASA prints and the pictures of some of the buildings up there. There is a huge building that is shaped like swastika, and that is where the Germans still have their base on the moon. And also the Americans have a base up there, and they work very close with the Russians up there. And they are separate from the alien bases. On the back side of the moon, there is large mining operations. And there are pictures that I have on my website here of this mining equipment. And it's very, very large. It's like big buildings here on Earth. And they must be digging in the ground for something. See, the moon is strange because when they brought the moon rocks back to Earth, when they analyzed them, they found that the moon rocks were 500 million years older than the rocks or anything on Earth. So really, the moon could not even be formed in the same cloud of dust as Earth was. So it had to be brought in from deep space, flown into the solar system, and parked in orbit around this planet. There is no other way it could happen because the age of the moon. And also, when we look at the rocks there, they are a different composition than any rocks on Earth. They're more crystalline composition. And I also have pictures of huge openings going into the center of the hollow moon. There are many scientists that has written papers on the fact that they find that the moon is hollow and there is something inside of it. In fact, on some of these pictures that you can see in the Sea of Crisis, there's a round hole going into the center of the moon, and if you have a very strong telescope, you can aim the telescope at the Sea of Crisis and find that crater, and it's actually the name of the crater is Cassini A, and I was wrong about that. It's in the Sea of Storms. And it is 1.5 mile wide, so it's a little over 1 kilometer wide. And there is you can see lights, bright light coming in, going into it and coming out of that. If you find a telescope with about 800 or more magnifications, you can probably see this. If you get yourself a map of the moon and find the Cassini A crater in the Sea of Storms.
Okay, so exists a secret space program, right?
Yeah, you can see that. And there's also, here is something else that maybe I'll tell the listener about. Write to NASA and ask to get a publication they created many years ago. It's called Chronological Catalog of Lunar Events. There you will see what they are hiding on the moon, because there's activities going on there. There are buildings up there, there's hangars up there. I have many of those pictures on my website. In fact, there are a long history of things going on the moon, all the way back to 1671. I mean, the year 1671. The astronomer Cassini is one of the most revered and famous astronomers. He saw small clouds was seen by him. And of course, we are told there is no atmosphere on the moon, so there couldn't be any clouds. So that tells me that NASA is lying again. And all the way up to 1881, there were 2 pyramids that was seen on the moon, and also we have in 1926 there were a Sea of Crisis. They saw moving lights on the bottom of the crater, and this gets strange because we see that there is stuff going on up there. And NASA and the space researchers, they're saying there's nothing, it's just a dead rock in the sky. But if that was so, why are so many of the pictures of the moon classified top secret? That is kind of strange, isn't it?
It's a good. Tell us why astronauts don't speak about the moon, but I think Edgar Mitchell astronaut says he believes in aliens. He believes in different life in different universe. Edgar Mitchell, but right now another astronauts who are in activity. When they are in activity, don't speak about that. What do you think about that?
Well, the astronauts, we have to remember that they are working for the government, and the government have a way about themselves that if you do not do what they tell you, they will fire you and they will make your life very miserable. They are not going to say much that they are not allowed to say. So now they're coming out and saying more so that they believe there is alien life, they mean there is things on the moon. But we have the recordings from the space flight when they say that that was when the first moon landing was, to say they're sitting on the crater on the other side watching us. So this was the flying disc they saw up there. Now we don't know what that was. It could be some of our discs that was there, or it could be an alien. We don't know because they never really said. But there is a book coming out of Russia, and it explains that there is over 30 different races that has bases on the moon. And also they have inside the moon some of these bases. They have manufacturing up there, and they have food production up there, and there are slave labor camps up there. And that gets a little strange. But the moon is livable because the moon has a small atmosphere on it. It is equivalent to, it is the same as about 18,000 feet of altitude on Earth. 18,000 feet of height on Earth is about the same as at the ground level on the moon. And if you look at Himalaya, there is people living at 18,000 feet in Himalaya all the time. So we could live on the moon, on the surface. And we, of course, are not told this.
So, do you think in the moon humans can live in the moon?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely we can. And there are the bases up there that the Germans built already back in 1944 when they went there the first time that I know of. Then they started building the base up there, and they moved a lot of equipment and other things up there. And of course they also moved a lot of it down to Antarctica and built the base at Neue Schwabenland in Antarctica, which they call Base 211. So they are, at this time, they are both the German high officers. Some of them went to Antarctica and some went to the moon, because they could go to the moon in the Haunebu 3. That was putting out such a strong electromagnetic field that it create a bubble around it so it would not get hurt going through the Van Allen belt.
Do you think in that moment there are humans living in the moon right now?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I do.
Russian people, American people, anything else?
And probably from other countries like England, maybe.
Wow.
I absolutely think so.
Wow, so interesting. In Peru, people think the moon is artificial. Do you think the moon is artificial or is a natural satellite?
Yeah, I think it is artificially made because it is a shell. When the Russians crashed one of their space probes on the moon was ringing like a gong for, over an hour afterwards. It was just like you hit something and that for a long time. And it would not do that if it was solid. It had to be a shell, and the sound was bouncing back and forth in it. So it is obvious that there is something inside. It's an open cavern inside of it. And it would also be obvious to me that if there is a cavern inside, then the inside that's lower than the surface, there would be more air inside. So that they would be making sense to have their base inside the moon, where they have more air and more shelter from the cold on the surface.
Okay, do you think aliens share the moon with humans?
Yeah, they work with, some of them work with the humans, so especially the American base, they work with humans, and they I don't know what they do all of it, but they do have manufacturing plants up there. They have food production, of course, and that is what they do, because this is financed by the $9 trillion worth of missing dollars, of missing money from the American defense budget, military budget. $9 trillion that is missing, and that has gone to create the secret space program, which they are operating in the atmosphere, in orbit, and they also have bases on the moon.
Okay,
this is what you probably heard of this man from England, Gary McKinnon. He hacked into NASA computer to look for UFO information and secret space program, and he found free energy devices, and he found a space battalion of some 10 to 12 ships, and 2 of them were named USS LeMay, and another one was USS Hillenkotter, and he found about 30 names on a list of non-terrestrial officers. In my mind, that means alien officers. And he found logs of ship-to-ship transfers of people and equipment and goods. So we know something is going on there because he saw it, and he is now writing a book about this.
Wow, so interesting, my dear friend. So I want to ask you that one question. If you think in the moon there are aliens, do you think in the moon there are humans? So they can share the moon, or they are fighting about the moon, human with aliens in the moon?
Yeah, I think they work together, and but there are some races that is very hostile to them also. So because we see that, the American military, they shoot down a UFO that flies in the atmosphere here. If American military come up on it, they will try to shoot it down, and they have done that many times. So we know that there's a hostility going on between alien crafts and earthly crafts.
Okay, I can remember an ufologist called Salvador Freixedo. Salvador Freixedo came to Peru. He told us American go to moon, come back. It's like her house. No problem for American, for United States. Maybe do you know Salvador Freixedo is about Papa, is a obispo from religious Catholic religious. Salvador Freixedo is a UFO researcher.
Familiar with that, but I know there was Colonel Wendell Stevens. He was ex-Air Force military, and he is probably, or was, he is dead now, he was the probably the biggest expert on the German flying saucers, and I interviewed him two times on my TV show a few years back. When we look at the moon, it's the more we read about it, the stranger it gets, because we know how big it is and how heavy it is and how fast it is going. The moon is going too fast and too close to Earth to hold orbit if it was solid. Now, if it is hollow, then it could stay in that orbit because it would be much lighter. So that is why when I run the numbers on this, then I find out that the moon is hollow. It cannot be any other way.
Okay. Could you tell us about the real story of Apollo 17, and why when Apollo 17 went to the moon, in that moment they could fight with aliens in Apollo 17.
Yeah, there is some movie footage from that. There's some video from that show buildings, and it shows large buildings and structures up there. Some of them buildings, though, they look like they're very old and they are abandoned and they are broken down some. But there were still buildings up there that you probably have seen those video, have you?
Okay. It's fascinating the story about the moon. I believe in the moon there are aliens, there are humans, because 2 years ago came to Argentina Andrés Basiago. He was in a UFO Congress in Argentina. He told us he went to Mars in many occasions. He found with Barack Obama in Mars. Maybe do you know about Andrés Basiago?
No, I don't.
Okay, so but I think it could be possible. His history.
Yeah.
He says he time travel with machine.
Okay.
I was reading your web page about your biography. In your biography, you talk about time travel. Do you think it's possible time travel?
Yeah, I think I probably maybe the only one I know of that has photographic evidence of time travel. And I have that on my website. I don't know which page it is, but I have it's in probably the last half of the picture gallery. I have two pictures that is taken at the same time, but there are two different timelines, so they are showed different. The pictures are different, and you can look at that sometime. Time travel is very possible. Even quantum physicians and scientists now are saying that time travel is very possible, because I have read in a let me read this to you. Here's an article. It was I read in an article in Science magazine and Science and Technology magazine. It says this: physicists demonstrate how time can seem to run backwards, and the future can affect the past. That was written by Professor Andrew Truscott. Another article in Nature Physics speak of a study that shows scientific experiments showing time can in fact run backwards. And I studied some of these experiments and they look very solid. So this is the beginning of it. Then can be done by electronic equipment. BBC television came over to the United States and did a TV documentary on time travel. They interviewed Michio Kaku and Green and another theoretical physicist and me. And I demonstrated a little electronic device on this video for BBC television, which I've had some very strange experiences with. And this is something I talked about on you can find it on the internet. The video is called Time Trip. And it was done as a video documentary by BBC television and showed to about 1 billion people globally.
Wow.
So this is very possible, because when you use the mind, this electronic equipment that I have, it did nothing for me until I started manipulating my brainwave pattern. When I lower the brainwave pattern in a meditative state to about 7.4 cycles per second, then things start happening. And in the back of spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness, I have a whole chapter on how we all can actually do time travel. But it's done with the mind, because in a mind-created universe where we are, the mind is all there is. And then we can use that mind to go to the past and the present or the future. So this can be done, and in the back I explain a little bit how I do this, and I had some insights from the future that is very interesting. So it's something that we can think about.
Wow, it's so interesting. So I was reading your biography. I read about your pilot. I would like to know how did you get it and enter in this topic in UFO. I would like to know your first experience with this phenomenon. Maybe do you have contact with alien? Maybe you communicate with telepathy with alien. I know people in Peru. People who believe in this phenomenon, they tell me I see a UFO, I seen a UFO, I have contact with alien. It's difficult find people believe in this phenomenon, but in the past they didn't have experience with this phenomenon. I always find people who believe in this phenomenon, they have experience with this phenomenon. In your case, have you ever seen a UFO? have you ever had experience with UFO? Tell us a little your first experience with this phenomenon.
Yeah, I have actually. I've seen them many times, and first time was probably about 11 years old. Well, maybe around 12 or something. And when I built a UFO detector that I made work, and when the bell went off, then I went outside and I saw something. So that was the first time. But after I came to the United States and became a commercial pilot, I flew for a living for 23 years. And I have over 10,000 hours of flight time logged as both an instructor, aerobatic pilot, and line pilot, and air taxi and different things. And when you fly that much, you see things. And one time I was flying over the northern Nebraska, and I was sitting there in the airplane with one other person in it in a training flight, and I had one a UFO flying under the airplane, probably about 300 and some feet, 400 feet underneath the airplane, maybe a little over 100 meters under the aircraft. Flew same speed as I was doing, just in the other direction, and it took I was probably doing about 150 miles an hour, or something, 300 and some kilometers an hour. And what I saw was it looked strange, because it looked like a skateboard, kind of like a flat board, but it had windows on the side. And another time I was going down to the burn center in Houston, from Omaha, Nebraska, and we were sitting, going in and out of the clouds, and right in front of us there was a big cigar-shaped ship that went from the left to the right, and it went so fast it was very difficult to keep our eyes on it, but we could see it just went by from maybe about 3 seconds from one corner of the eye to the other corner, and it was gone. And I looked at the co-pilot, and he looked at me, and I asked him, "Did you see that?" And he didn't want to say anything. He just looked forward and did not even mention it. He never talked about it, but we both saw it. So, and there's several other times that I've seen things and I've experienced things. So these things are real. And what I'm finding is that the people that believe in it originally, they have an easier time to talk about it and tell others about it. The people that have gone around and said, "Nah, there is nothing, they do not exist," people that say that stuff, if they see something, they won't tell anybody, because then they would look stupid for thinking that it wasn't true. So I think they're trying to protect themselves that way, possibly. I don't know. But the people that is more open to it, they will talk about it much more than the ones that are not.
When you had your first experience, did you change your life? Or in that time, what era your vision for your life in that time? Or before you were thinking about UFO?
Well, that was back in Europe, back in Norway, where I was born. And when I saw that first craft, it was quite far away, but it looked like it was a cigar-shaped type of thing, and bright, very bright. And I knew that was not an airplane. And I knew that this was so interesting that I needed to do more research on it. So I started reading about it. I started looking into it. And also in the newspapers in Norway, when I was a little boy, like 5, 6, 7 years old, that was there were articles in the paper about these flying discs that the German war machine, Hitler's German war machine had built. They talked about it in the newspaper, that he built flying saucers.
Wow! So interesting. In my case, my name is Angel Gabriel. When I was a child, I used to question about me why is my name Angel Gabriel. I used to ask all the people about my name. My father told me your name is in the Bible. And asking where to live angel, where do they live angel. He told he lived in the space. In that moment, I used to think, aliens life, angels life in another planets. So we started to connect with a cosmos, with a star, with a life in another planets. When I was a child. In your case, you've seen newspaper about these topics, right?
Yeah, I started reading when I was probably about 4 years old, and I was reading newspapers and mostly comics, I guess, comical stuff. But I also read strange stuff in the newspaper, and I saw these articles about flying saucers that the Germans built, and I remember that because that was so strange that it did not make sense to my mind at the time. And when you talked, let's say, with your parents about flying saucers, what did they tell you?
When I seen flying saucer, in my case, I do experience with this phenomenon. My first experience, it was in my house. It was a night. I seen in the sky like a star, but this started to move like zigzag. After that, stop. After that, like zigzag. After that, disappear. So after that, I found with my friend. My friend told me, "Oh, he saw that. He saw too the UFO." It was interesting because this object moved like zigzag. It's my first experience. My second experience is when I was traveling to another city by airplane. In the airplane, I started to record video. In video, three objects appear like fly saucer. When I arrived to the airport, I started to watch my video. I was surprised about my video. But in your case, could you record video in your sightings?
You mean meteors?
Could you record video sightings?
People, you mean?
You.
Yeah, I had one experience back in Europe, but I did not see any people inside of the ships. That I did not, but I could see the windows, and there was light coming out the windows, so it was very bright inside of the one of them. That I could see. Even though it was in the daytime when this happened, I could still see that there was brighter light coming out of the craft than what was outside.
Okay, my friend, it's so interesting your the interview. I think all the people who in the future will listen this audio, this program, this is going to be fascinating for the people. So could you tell us about your radio show?
Yeah, the radio show is the Universal Consciousness Show, and we cover pretty much anything from the UFOs, the extraterrestrial, to the real power of the mind, and other strange things that you don't find anywhere else. And you will if you go to my website, you will see some downloaded under the blogs. You will find the shows and other things. And also, I am now in the process of setting up another website with the name Universal Consciousness Show, and I will have the radio shows there also. And what we're doing there, I have a co-host. She is living over in Germany. I'm living in the southwest of the United States, and she's over in Germany. We have created an international show there, pretty much, and between the two of us, we can speak 9 languages. So we can, if someone has a problem with a language, then can text us in the chat room, and then we can answer them back in their native language. That helps sometimes. And the problem is that I don't speak Spanish, so I can't help you. But other languages will work. And Diana speaks Spanish, so she could she probably would be the better one for this interview, because she can speak your language and do it in Spanish.
Wow, wow, it's a good. Tell us a little about her. Did she experience with this phenomenon?
Yeah, she has not been much in contact with the alien issue or flying saucers. She does not know much about that, but she is got a very powerful mind. She, in fact, she was very ill several years ago, and she healed herself by thinking herself well. And we did a radio show not long ago about the fact that in 2009, the Nobel Prize was given to 3 doctors for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process. And I am doing that, and it works for me. And in my book, I explain what we can do. It's very simple. And in my book, I explain how this can be done. So you can look at that on my website.
Okay. How did you meet with her?
She bought my book, and she read it, and then she contacted me, and we started talking, and we kind of hit it off. So I decided that I wanted her on as a co-host.
Okay, very good. So, do you know Becky Escamilla?
No.
Becky Escamilla has a program, radio show in Beacon of Light in the same radio.
Oh, okay. Where is she at?
Becky Escamilla.
Yeah. What country is she in?
Country is USA, Roswell.
Oh, okay. I don't know her. Becky Escamilla. Okay.
Yes, Becky Escamilla. I know her.
Okay.
4 months ago, I have interview with her. He interviewed my here. She has a good picture. She could take picture.
Yeah.
Good, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Her program is Sci-Fi Earth.
Oh, okay.
So, how can we contact you?
Through my website is okay, and that will work good. And please contact me on Facebook and send me a friend request, and then you will see much of the stuff that we do on Facebook, and that will be a good place. So we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. In the future, we like to have again. We like to speak about Norway. In Norway, maybe exists office which study this phenomenon, or maybe do you know one case in Norway in your country?
Yeah, I do actually. There was a crashed in 1947 at Spitsbergen, and it was a very interesting incident, and that was a flying saucer that fell out of the sky. And there are others also that has been found, one in Helgoland, and there's some very interesting things that have happened there.
Okay. Thanks for the interview. Thanks a lot, my dear friend. I think in the future we'll speak about another case with more deeply about Mars, another planet exists life.
Oh yeah, that's a big story there on Mars. That's
in Mars.
That's a whole show right there.
Yes. I would like to know about Mars. Mars is fascinating, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So thanks a lot, my dear Aage Nost. Thanks a lot.
Yep, that was fun, so we can do it again sometime, and visit my website and look at my book in there, and contact me on Facebook also, so we can stay in touch.
Okay, have a good night, my friend.
Good night to you too.
Okay. We are going to speak in the future with researchers like this person. I think is very interesting. I communicate with him 2 years ago, two days ago. It's very fast to interview with him because he know a lot about this topic, about this information. So thanks a lot for listening to us, my dear friends from Peru. Maybe in another country in the future they are going to listen to this audio. So I think this audio in the future will be interesting for you. So thanks a lot, my dear friends. Thanks in another opportunity, my friends. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.